it's the English Simmer here, and we are in the deep, dark depths of winter, but the festive season is just around the corner. I read yesterday that it's like 2 weeks until Christmas, which... terrifying. But this is actually a video that a load of you have requested this year, and it's been a fair few years since I actually sat down and did this. I think the last one that I did was maybe 2020, which obviously I had an awful lot of time to play The Sims 4 back in 2020. But today I am gonna be tier ranking all of the packs that we have for The Sims 4, and obviously since the last time I did this, a lot of packs have been released, an awful lot of kits have been released, so I'm gonna try and go through it as quickly as I possibly can, whilst also giving you enough of my reasons as to why I've ranked them the way that I've ranked them. I mean, it's base game. It's free now, so technically it doesn't even need ranking because you don't have to put money down on this. Anyone can download this. A lot of people probably already have it, so it's just going in crumple bottom. Better now than when it was released back in 2014. She's there. She's just, you know, the building block. Snowy Escape. I'm sorry, but Grim Reaper. Not the worst, but also just not the most replay value out of an expansion pack. I really love the build buy mode that came with this. I will say, festivals in Snowy Escape, they're not the most interesting thing. They are the thing that keeps me going back. Not quite as good as City Living festivals in my opinion, but they are alright. I really like the kids ones and how they're like kind of kid focused. I also love Void Critters, and obviously they have like the Pokemon Go element of the Void Critter hunt. However, Cottage Living on the other foot can definitely be applied to so many different worlds, so many different styles of gameplay. If you are anything like me, you love a good rags to riches, and Cottage Living is very much up there as one of my favorite packs. It's not even a pack that I constantly rely on. Obviously, when I want like the off the grid and I want the lot challenge of being able to like scrape food together from nothing, it is there for me. I don't use it all that often, but it is, in my opinion, one of the best polished packs. I say this all the time when I do pack rankings. I have unpopular opinions, and I know that. There are so many people in the Sims 4 player base that would literally put this like in Grim Reaper. I am not one of those people. I actually use the fame system an awful lot. It actually expands the game. You can gain fame and that reputation system from a lot of different things. It still exists in Motherlode. I do feel as if The Sims 4 Discover University is probably one of the most lackluster university expansions that we've got. I did actually recently replay this in my Nightmare Legacy challenge like all throughout this year, and I did have fun with it. I feel like alongside other packs, and specifically if you are doing challenges that need like other stuff going on and you're not solely just focused on university, it does feel like there's a fair bit to do. However, obviously a lot of it is rabbit holes. I do like Debate Guild. I also like the robotics stuff. I don't think it does enough to go in Rosebud, so it is going in Crumple Bottom. Don't think I have as much of a downer on university as I used to do. Also, Creator Sim. I say it all the time, but that is when The Sims 4 Creator Sim really changed gears. Speaking of a solid Creator Sim, oh my word, City Living. Another unpopular opinion, I know. Really want City Living to get a refresh. I actually think it's one of the packs in The Sims 4 that desperately needs it. Even if they just updated the festivals, I for one would be so happy. I think that the team could literally add so many elements of furniture that we have in the game into the flea market, and it would honestly just like breathe some life and fresh air into City Living. But I personally still think it holds up very well. However, asterisks, and this is a big asterisk at the moment, at the time that I am recording and uploading this video, rent is currently broken in this. I have heard from many people that their rent is currently set to 0 in City Living. So obviously with that game-breaking glitch right now. You can still play, it's just that you won't really have to spend anything. Now, I didn't want to go back and like watch all of my previous videos of like pack rankings. I just wanted to go off like my feelings recently, which meaning recently I have actually sat down and recorded a video where I was reacting to James Turner, formerly known as the Sim Supplies video, where he asked the Sims community what their favorite packs were and went through like a ranking system. Seasons was actually ranked very, very high, and I definitely had a downer on Seasons for a long time. I was like, all it really offers is weather, which I know when you've played that Eternal Summer, it does feel like such a nice change to have Seasons in the game. But I actually stand corrected. I kind of forgot what came with Seasons, and it does actually offer some new activities. Some of them are very, very small, like snowball fights aren't really all that much. I do like building snow pals and snow angels, but again, it's just kind of like little pieces of content. We did actually get flower arranging, which I myself have personally used an awful lot this year, so I think that's kind of why it's bumped it up. We did get a new career. We got an update to gardening, which most of the time that does just annoy me, that we have to create like a greenhouse on every single lot. But I really like ice skating and roller skating. I tend to have lots that are surrounded by that an awful lot. That might just be my personal interest, but I'm actually gonna put this one into Rosebud this year. I feel like it's charmed me. Eco Lifestyle, forever and always, still currently my favorite expansion pack for The Sims 4. People say that NAPs can get annoying, and I agree. If you don't keep an eye on them, or if you don't micromanage them at any given opportunity, yes, they can get slightly annoying. However, I do also feel like they can help you tell a story. I really love like the off-the-grid stuff that came with Eco Lifestyle. I love dumpsters. I wish that they just allowed dumpsters in other worlds. Like, I wish that if you installed Eco Lifestyle into your game, dumpsters would just be applied to like every world, just like out and about. You can do that through Tool mod. However, if you do it through Tool, rubbish won't really accumulate in dumpsters. Sims don't ever really go out of their way to use them, even if they are just plopped in the world. And then if you put them on other lots, you have to wait for rubbish to kind of generate, which kind of removes the fun of like diving for deals. I also love that you can make your own furniture. I love that you can find deals. I would also love a way to restore furniture without having to have that like gun from the career, that vacuum thing. Get to Work, I always feel so bad about. Like, obviously it was the first expansion pack that we got. However, if you look at the list of like gameplay features that came with Get to Work, it's bigger than like majority of the expansion packs that we get nowadays. I have heard that the careers are quite buggy. I mean, I feel like they've always been buggy. I would definitely say I play with the scientist career the most. Get to Work, I feel, could be so much better if it had an effect on other aspects of the game. For example, if we had burglars and you could get caught stealing in obviously for rent and the detective was kind of drawn into it. I am still gonna put it in Grim Reaper. Get Together, I will hold my hands up and say I probably haven't used this as much in the last few years as I have in the past. Things that you can get up to in the group system are one of the only things in The Sims 4 that I feel is constantly looked at, and when we get new packs, it's definitely adding crossplay. They don't always work the best. I recently mentioned that I started a knitting club and it just felt like The Sims were doing anything but sitting down and knitting, but I do still love having it. I think if you use your imagination with this pack, it still really holds up. I did a test video to see whether you could get the same vibe of a wedding using Get Together that you could in My Wedding Stories, and honestly, they felt pretty similar. I still think like hen and stag do's, if you want to throw them, are way better in this than like the bachelor or bachelorette parties you can throw in My Wedding Stories. I just think it's a really dynamic pack. This one is so difficult for me to place. I really enjoy Growing Together. Dynamic personality shifts and like family dynamics. I do wish a fair few of the milestones specifically for infants were base game. So it has its strong points and it definitely has its negatives for me, but I do think it would probably be one of my go-tos. I just think this is better than Seasons, but does that mean that it should be in Motherload? I kind of want to put it like half and half, but I know I can't do that. I'm gonna put it at the very top of Rosebud. Why did I think this was Discover University? This is high school years. It's going in Tragic Clown. I'm sorry, I don't like it. I love Create a Sim. I love Build and buy mode. Both of those things for me are not enough to drag this up to a Grim Reaper. I just think there was so many missed opportunities. I think it's a really glitchy pack. I still don't think it really gave teenagers all that much personality. I would have really liked it if they had introduced like social groups. I also think Horse Ranch is gonna join it. I know that this pack has fans. I am not one of them. If Horse Ranch has 0 haters, I am dead. The Grim Reaper has taken me. I just don't think it was enough to be an expansion. I think it's really, really limited, and I know why it probably needed the like animation budget of an expansion pack. I understand that in my brain, but it still doesn't have enough content to me to be an expansion. I think it is a ripoff. If you like animals in The Sims 4, then I guess this is for you. If you want to adopt cats and dogs, then yeah. I rarely ever play with the vet career. I do really, really like Brindleton Bay, but apart from like adding cats and dogs into your family, I think the training is very lackluster. There's no like competitions that you can do with cats and dogs. They can't have careers. It's also going in Tragic Clown. And for rent, definitely buggy right now. I do really like elements of For Rent, and it's definitely something that I've been wanting to see. And I do think I'm gonna get a fair bit of replay value out of this. I also enjoy living as a tenant, so I'm gonna put this one into Rosebud. Outdoor Retreat, I am so sorry to you, but you will always be a Tragic Clown. I do quite like Granite Falls. I like going out there for like a weekend away. I never really use herbalism, and even when I am in Granite Falls, most of the time I'm like, oh, I can't wait for my sim to get back to like regular scheduled life. Spa Day, historically the only Sims pack that has ever had a refresh, and it was a refresh in the sense that there are manicures and pedicures in the game. There are also facials in the game. You can basically run your own like mini business. I actually still stand by the fact that I use this an awful lot. I use wellness an awful lot in my game. I will have Sims meditate and do yoga. It's one of my favorite activities in The Sims 4. Die now, if you weren't buggy. No, to be fair, I never ever own restaurants. It's like the vet career, like I just don't do it. I don't enjoy that micromanagement side of The Sims 4 really anymore. I do like having restaurants to be able to go out on dates. I do like having restaurants to go for like birthday meals, but obviously I know that this pack could be so much better than what it is. I will say I have gone out for dinner a lot recently, and it really hasn't been quite as buggy as it once was. Like my Sims are definitely getting fed. I want to say like a solid 80% of the time, where it used to be like a not so solid 20% of the time, but I think it has to go into Crumple Bottom purely for how much I use it. Vampires, I still love her. I stand by the fact this is one of the best occult packs that we have ever received in the Sims franchise. I really love the different types of vampires, like the different tropes that you can tell, the different stories you can tell. Once upon a time, I used to put it up into Motherload. I just really haven't played with vampires all that much recently, so I think it's going in Rosebud for me. Parenthood is definitely a lurker pack. I never really focus on character values anymore, even when I have like kids and teenagers, unless I'm telling a specific story. They just don't really affect me. I do still like the parenting skill. I like that you can ground Sims. I like that there's a fair bit of consequence to this pack, but I think because I don't really focus on the main features all that much, it's definitely going into Crumple Bottom. Jungle Adventure, honestly a pretty solid game pack. You obviously don't like play in it loads and loads, like you just go for random vacations there. I will say it's probably the vacation world apart from Batu that I use the least. I feel like I use Granite Falls more than I use Salvadorada, but that's just because Salvadorada calls for more of a story for me personally. I like the content when I play with it though, above Die Now, but I don't use it as much as Die Now. I have a soft spot for Strangerville. I can't help it. I know it's story based. I know in the past I've said once you've played it, once you've played it. I do still agree with that. You have to take like big spouts in between playing Strangerville, because obviously it is very story based. There are a couple of different ways that you can go about it, not in the sense that like it's massively game changing, but you can choose to focus on like the military side of stuff. You can choose to focus on the conspiracy side of stuff a little bit more. I actually recently just found out that you can befriend the mother plant, which I had never done in Strangeville. I think she's going into Rosewood. Yes, it may not be the biggest like replayability factor for me, but I think it was a solid pack. Journey to Batu, I'm sorry, but you still are going in Tragic Clown. I say this as a Star Wars fan. I know builders quite like the build and buy mode, which is absolutely fine. You're allowed to like it. It just fell flat for me as a Sims game pack and then also as a Star Wars pack. I just think there were so many missed opportunities. I really like lightsabers, but there's not really much you can do with them. I really like droids, but again, there's not really much you can do with them. It doesn't have the Force, so therefore it doesn't feel like a full Star Wars pack. It pretty much is just Batu, the Disney world. Realm of Magic, definitely not as strong as Vampires for me. I will say it's going in Crumple Bottom. I do still use it a fair amount. I like the Magic Realm. I like the Sages. I like the Magic, but the Magic does just feel like cheat codes. I feel like there's not as many stories as you can tell. I just wish it were more interesting. I wish you had more consequential spells. It kind of misses out on like the funniness of being a witch and wizard in The Sims 3. And then again, it doesn't have like the seriousness or like the story arcs that Vampires has. Dream Home Decorator, Tragic Clown, always and forever. That is one opinion that I don't think I will ever sway on. It is a broken pack. Once you get to the top levels of the career, you just can't really do anything with it. I don't even know if that's been fixed. I, hands down, have not played with Dream Home Decorator, minus the Create a Sim and Build and Buy mode stuff, which again, both I think are really nice. We could pretty much make over any house in The Sims 4 and play around with like money cheats to get ourselves paid. I feel like the gameplay introduced in this is just a repackaging of what was already possible in The Sims 4, and people might say that about For Rent, but I feel like For Rent does it with a system to back it, whereas I feel like Dream Home Decorator did not have any system backing that up. My Wedding Stories is also joining it, obviously very buggy. Again, another pack that I haven't really played with much since its release, so I don't know how the bugs and glitches are looking at the minute. I don't know if it was ever really fixed or if they kind of just like, well, like, this is beyond saving, so we're not even gonna try. I love werewolves. Feel like, if anything, werewolves will be the one that was up here. I actually think I am gonna put it up there. It kind of lacks the story element that I always go on about in Vampires. Again, I feel like a bit like Realm of Magic with like the traits that you could get. You kind of had to play around with them as a player and use your imagination to try and like define the wolves, but I really like the two different groups of wolves. I love Moonwood Mill. I think it is a sick world. I love the lore. I love the collections. I feel like there's a fair bit to do as a werewolf. It's the strongest supernatural pack that we have in The Sims 4. Luxury Party, oh, no, I literally never use it. Up until My Wedding Stories, I would only really suggest Luxury Party for the fountains. There's also a really nice feminine tag suit that I love in Luxury Party stuff. That is not enough for me to ever put this in anything but Tragic Clown. Perfect patio stuff is kind of redundant. I think there's a kitchen in this that I know builders quite like, but this introduced hot tubs. We have hot tubs 1 in For Rent now, and also we got a hot tub as a base game update for the 20th anniversary. It's just not really worth spending money on. Cool kitchen stuff. If anything, the only reason I would ever suggest putting money down on this, which personally I wouldn't suggest that, which is why it's in my Tragic Clown. Obviously, it did go up a little bit in value with the release of Home Chef Hustle, because you can now make ice creams on the go. You can go and sell them. And then also, if you have this, you also unlock some ice creams in Dine Out. I feel so bad for spooky stuff. Actually, still one of my favorites. I personally have an affinity to this pack, and I don't know why, because I actually did a fair few like spooky stuff themed videos this year, and it really made me realize that this didn't come with a lot. Obviously, you do get pumpkin carving. I personally just wouldn't pay stuff pack prices for only pumpkin carving. You do have like the trick or treat bowl. It's also hard for me to think about spooky stuff and actually dissect what came with spooky stuff, but then what also didn't come in seasons, because they actually took some of the spooky stuff assets, like the gravestones, and then a couple of like the light up ghost decorations, and added them into the seasons catalog just with like a few different swatches. So whilst I personally still like it, I definitely don't think it's worth the amount of money at which stuff packs are priced these days. I don't think Seasons does it well enough, but I think the reason Seasons doesn't do it well enough is because we already had spooky stuff in the catalog of things, and the Sims team just didn't want to make it completely obsolete the way that they did with Perfect Patio stuff. Movie Hangout is going into Crumple Bottom. I still really enjoy hosting little movie nights. I think it's really, really cute. Obviously, in the little campus kit, we did get a movie screen. However, I'm fairly sure if you don't have Movie Hangout in your game, you can't actually watch movies on it. You can just like watch TV shows. I don't ever really use the popcorn maker unless I am hosting like a cute little movie night. I really enjoy having something to do that isn't like going out and getting drunk in The Sims 4. All I ever use romantic gardening stuff is the wishing well, which is pretty much like a cheat sheet at this point in time. When this pack first came out, and for the first couple of years, builders really liked this pack. I haven't heard anyone talk about romantic garden stuff recently, like at all. Going in Tragic Clown. Kids room stuff, I hate that this is one of the only things that gives kids personalities. I still really want like more kids themed rooms, fairy tale-esque rooms, and like underwater themed rooms, and I feel like Growing Together could have done that, but it really just missed the mark on it. I really love Void Critters. I really like the puppet show. I will say both of those objects are so oversized. They could introduce like new objects that have a much smaller footprint, and I would get so much more use out of this. I actually might even put that in Rosewood. I hate that you have to get it to give kids more stuff to do, but I do think it's up there as one of my personal favorites. Backyard stuff, literally never ever use it. Kinda went up a little bit because obviously now you can serve lemonade with Home Chef Hustle, but I only ever really use the slip and slide, and I feel like those are really the only two things that backyard stuff came with. Vintage Glamour, I literally never ever use. Whenever I use butlers in the past, they always used to glitch out. They never really did anything that I wanted them to do. Even though I really like Get Famous, I rarely play as like massive superstars. Please let me know how butlers work in the game if you've played with them recently. And for that reason, again, it's going in Tragic Clown. I wanted to love bowling stuff so much, and I did like bowling stuff. However, bowling takes so flippin' long in the game. I quite like the build and buy mode stuff. I really like having bowling alleys. Again, it's another thing for my Sims to do, gets them out of the house without just having to go clubbing, but I rarely use it because it takes so long. So therefore, it's going into Grim Reaper. Fitness stuff, now I really like rock climbing in the game. I know that is bizarre to say, but I do also really like the build and buy mode. It kind of has that like industrial, like a lot of wood and iron. But apart from that and like the workout videos that you get on the TV, this doesn't add too much. Although you do get the free earbuds, which could either be a nuisance to you and you want to delete from your game forever, or you're like me and quite enjoy like putting those in your Sims ears whilst they're doing work or they're doing a hobby like knitting or going for a jog. I definitely don't use it as much as Spa Day, which is why I don't really want to put it in Crumple Bottom. However, I do think I probably use this than the other stuff packs that I've put in here. Toddler stuff is really held back from the way that The Sims 4 works. The fact that you need your parent to know like every single toddler, which I understand like probably would happen because you'd probably meet at a nursery or like a little play date or something. But the invite system is just atrocious in The Sims 4, and I would definitely use toddler stuff more if they just allowed it as like a household family invite, and anyone you knew in that household could then be invited by like any Sim. The Creator Sim is quite cute, but I definitely feel like I could live without it personally. I know other people are huge fans of Laundry Day. I have never been a huge fan of Laundry Day. I think laundry can be quite buggy. I also think it can get really, really weird in the sense that you lose track of where you are up to with like your washing. I have played with this recently in my Growing Together household, and I feel like I just have to wash the items like 3 or 4 times because I personally have forgotten whether they are clean or dry. I think personally I could live without it, but I do like the realism that it adds. My first pet stuff is going straight into Tragic Clown purely for the fact that it is still DLC for DLC. However, I will say if you're watching this video around its time of release, currently My First Pet stuff is free on the EA app. So if you are a PC or a Mac player, you can download this. You actually don't need cats and dogs to actually install this, which I know loads of people thought that you did need cats and dogs. You can still install this without having cats and dogs. It just means that the stuff for cats and dogs, I don't know whether there's any build mode items that relate to them. I think there are a couple, but also the creator sim items that relate to those animals just won't appear in your game. But you can get all the other assets. So you can get creator sim, which to be fair, for Sims is pretty much just base game stuff. Definitely not worth it at any other price other than free, I don't think. Although I will say, I will hold my hands up, I do quite like the rabid rodent fever. Personally, still really like Moschino. I like a lot of the stuff they added. I think it did wonders for photography in The Sims 4. I will hold my hands up and say I haven't played with it enough recently to remember like every little thing about it, but I do feel as if I got like a fair use out of it when it was first released. I honestly kind of want to go back and play through it. I just think it really helped photography, and I really like that about Moschino. Tiny Living, I very much enjoy Tiny Living, and I'm not even a builder, so that says a lot. I really like the build and buy mode. I really like the creator sim that came with it. I do pretty much use Tiny Living as a cheat system, which is how I feel a lot of players use Tiny Living. It's going in my rosebud. I definitely think if I were like purchasing packs in the year of 2023, it would be like up there as like what I would want from a stuff pack. Nifty Knitting, unpopular opinion, I know, but I absolutely love her. Specifically, the creator sim assets really aren't my favorite. Like, I barely have my Sims use them. I really like the masculine jumper, but that's pretty much it. I feel like the feminine stuff specifically just like isn't really my style, but that's fine because there's a ton of other things that you can knit. I love how you can knit onesies. I also personally really like Plopsy. I think Plopsy adds a lot to the game, which is why Nifty Knitting, I feel, will always be in my motherload. Paranormal stuff, I will say, is pretty glitchy at the minute. I played with this year in my Nightmare Legacy challenge, and I really struggled with the career just because a lot of the stuff like wasn't ticking off. It wasn't spawning enough for me to actually move up in the career. I love having the seance skill. I think it adds for such fun Sims and like different Sims. I feel like I can't put it in motherload because of the glitches that it is currently facing. So maybe for that reason, I'm gonna put it like top of Rosebud. If I didn't suffer with those glitches, that would probably be in Motherload. And then Home Chef Hustle. Obviously, this is most recent in my mind. It's the most recent stuff pack. We did have a stuff pack revival in the year of 2023, which was absolutely wild. I always wanted to see it happen. I didn't think it was ever gonna happen. It definitely had some downsides for me. Like, there were little things as I was playing that kind of annoyed me. Little bugs here or there that I do think need ironing out. I actually think it's really solid gameplay, and I personally know I'm gonna get a lot of use out of it. I don't know why Island Living wasn't included with the rest of my expansions. Unpopular opinion, but I do quite like Island Living. Yes, mermaids could be so much better. If you are able to download mods, please play Island Living with the realistic mermaids mod. But I really love Sulani. I love the community aspect of that world. I wish that there was an underwater element to it that you could like actually see, but I genuinely believe it's one of the best worlds and one of the most interactive worlds. I am gonna put it in Crumple Bottom. Carnival kit, I really wanted to love this kit, and there are some assets that I use, but I really don't use it all that frequently because it's such a small piece of content. It's like, okay, can this fit in with like the wider scheme of The Sims 4? I personally don't think for me this one does that all that well, so it is going in Tragic Clown. Bust the Dust definitely has been fixed up a little bit. I will say not half as broken as it once used to be. Dust actually does collect. Dust Bunnies didn't bring back game-breaking rewards that were worth like 10,000 simoleons, although I have recently seen that happening for some people. I'm personally not a huge fan of chores within the game just because I feel like they take away from other stuff when I am actually playing, so it's alright. It's going in Grim Reaper. It's It's nothing special to me. I personally probably wouldn't buy this, but that's more a personal preference. Country kitchen, I mean, I liked it until we got cottage living. The kitchens feel very, very similar. I think if you don't own cottage living, but you kind of want that aspect, then yeah, maybe this is for you, but it's not for me. Fitness stuff, there are a couple of assets that I do use frequently. I do think it looks quite good. I'm just completely over the athletic wear in the game, so that's also going in Tragic Clown. Love how kits are like the one element of The Sims 4 in this video that I've needed a list of what all the names. That's how you know you have too many. Courtyard Oasis. I love Courtyard Oasis. I think the assets are gorgeous. Again, I just feel like it doesn't fit into loads of the geographical locations that we have in The Sims 4, which is an issue in itself because we definitely need to diversify worlds. And that's the reason it is going in Grim Reaper. Industrial Loft Kit, when this first came out, people were comparing it to base game. Obviously, the assets look better than base game. There's like a specific table that I really, really like in this. It's not anything special though. It does feature the wood and metal, which I spoke about in fitness stuff, how we don't get all that often. We did get it in this, just don't think it's good enough to warrant the like £5 price point. Fashion Street, I actually really, really adore the Creator Sim. I think it is absolutely stunning. I use it a fair bit when I am playing in City Living. Ancient Arrivals, Motherload. One of the only kits that is in Motherload for me. I use Ancient Arrivals literally so much. It does the basics so well. It just looks so nice. All of the assets are really well polished. Again, like Fashion Street Kit. Very, very good looking assets. Now, which plant one was this? Is this Blooming Rooms? Builders, I feel like this one because it offers a variation in plants. I do use a fair few of the plants. The Hanging Pothos is in almost every single one of my builds. I still don't think it's worth the £5 price point. I think the only reason you'd miss this is if you have it and then for some reason it wasn't part of your game and then you just be like, oh, that was so helpful. But the assets are quite small. Crumple bottom, menswear, no. I just feel like it missed the mark. I feel like we needed so many more masculine assets in Creator Sim before we got our hands on this one. Decor to the max. I quite like decor to the max. It is very in your face. It's definitely not for everyone. Now that I'm thinking about it, the only thing that I can really think about what came with this is the wallpaper and also the molding. It fits in well with some packs. Like it kind of fits in with like Get Famous and like Judith Ward. And I feel like it's good for storytelling. So maybe I'm gonna put it in Crumple Bottom actually. I really like little campers. I love the tent that we got. I love the little camp beds. I love the film screen that we got. This is one of the only build mode kits that kind of also had gameplay tied to the assets, which was really, really nice to see. I think it's a solid kit. Moonlight Chic. This is so unpopular, but I use this Creator Sim so much. I'm sorry. I think it's really, really good. First Kids Fit. I feel like this is popular because, again, it adds stuff for kids that we don't really see all that often. Like, it's the only kit that is fully focused on kids fashion. I personally just don't use it all as much as I thought I would, so it's going in Grim Reaper. The Desert Looks, I know builders absolutely love this one. I just don't really build outdoor areas all that often. It's cohesive. It offered modular curtains, which I was so thankful for, and they are now becoming normalized in releases, which thank goodness. We have Desert Looks to thank for that. Just for me personally, it's a no. Everyday clutter is in Tragic Clown for me. I feel like you can pretty much get the same asset from either debug or just base game. I use a lot of the assets in Pastel Pop. I love like the tiling tables. I think it speaks to my style and how I actually like to decorate rooms. The underwear kit, I do think the assets are good. I feel like they're really up to scratch. I feel like they fit a lot of different Sims. I really like what they did with this, but with Simtimates, you never really see them. Like unless you use them as sleepwear, which usually I don't. The only thing I've really used is like the masculine two-piece with the shirt and the shorts. So it's going in Grim Reaper for that reason. Bathroom clutter, no. Too small, don't like it, don't really think it adds anything to my game. Basement treasures, however, maybe this is my nostalgia speaking. I do like how it had little throwbacks to like a lot of the Sims 1 assets that we had. I quite like rundown stuff. I kind of like that like grungy element in build and buy mode. So this one is going in Crumple Bottom. Greenhouse felt quite limited in my opinion. in. I do really like the windows that came with this. I do like how you can build slightly more realistic greenhouses. I just think I would have preferred it to go about it in a different way, so therefore it's going in Grim Reaper. Genuinely thought I would use the grunge kit more than I have. I do think it's quite similar to werewolves if you already have werewolves, which is honestly probably why I haven't used it as much. Like, I tend to go for the werewolves creator sim over this. I know you can mix and match, but then again, there is that like netted top, which I absolutely adore. Maybe Rosebud, actually. Book Nook, now I do love a good book. I just think it's a little bit boring. I think the shelves are like really oversized. I like that we finally have modular bookshelves, but we really only got one variation. And the one that we did get is pretty basic. So that one is going in Grim Reaper for me. The swimwear kit, I do quite like it. I definitely use it more than the Simtimates. So therefore it's going in Crumple Bottom. And finally, modern looks. I again really like modern looks. I think it has really nice assets. I think it was so up there. I just don't think I use looks enough for this to be in Rosebud, so it's going into Crumple Bottom. So there we have it. My ultimate ranking of all the packs up till December 2023 in The Sims 4. Ooh, I don't know. I'm looking at this. I do stand by everything that I said. I'm so sorry. I know this video was so long. I'm hoping that I am able to edit it down. That's just the way the cookie crumbles when we have this many packs in the game. I definitely think this year things have like shifted up and down for me way more than they ever really have. And that's probably dependent on like how I'm personally playing the game and like the stories that I'm telling and how I feel like packs fit into other packs. I've slept on it and I've decided I don't think I can keep high school years down here in Tragic Clown. I think I'm gonna need to put it in Grim Reaper, not because of the gameplay. I still think there were so many missed opportunities in this pack and it just doesn't feel fleshed out to me in like any element of the gameplay. But buy mode and also create a sim specifically are what even gives this a chance of being in Grim Reaper. Obviously, it goes without saying these are just my personal preferences. I feel like we all play the game so differently to one another. Like I said, like builders absolutely adore packs that I never ever really find myself going towards. A lot of the like clutter kits a lot of builders seem to enjoy, whereas I'm personally just like, this adds nothing to my game, because yeah, it is a little bit of decoration, but one, I love gameplay, and so I don't like loads and loads of clutter, because then I feel like you can have routing issues, and I would prefer like workspaces for my Sims to actually be usable rather than having like a bunch of clutter around. Even though I like clutter to tell stories and I like clutter to be able to give my Sims personalities, a lot of like the clutter stuff that we had got recently just feels very basic and doesn't really feel like it shows off that personality. Whereas a pack like High School Years, which I personally really don't like the gameplay, and I put in Tragic Clown, I feel like that in build mode has way more of personality in it, because you can definitely see Sims' different interests and things like that. So they're all different. I personally don't really make these rankings to like tell people where they should or shouldn't spend their money. Just because I play my game a certain way or I like a certain pack, it might not mean that you like it, or it might mean that you love a pack that I absolutely just don't get on with. It's more just to give like a summary of a pack and like why I chose the reasons that I chose to like something or not. I'm gonna stop rambling though. I hope this video was helpful for those of you who requested it. If you do want to learn anything more, if you have any other questions, do not hesitate to leave them in the comments down below. I hope you enjoy your festive period. If you do get your hands on any Sims 4, let me know all the drama, all the gossip that's happening in your game with any new packs, and I will speak to you all in my next one. Bye now.